The statistic that I've always seen printed is that we need 300 to 400 pounds of food per person per year, and I'm starting to doubt that statistic. And I'm going to give you some basic math and tell you why. A couple of weeks ago, I made bread for a funeral, and I made some again Saturday morning when I got up for a funeral for French bread recipe. Great Depression video 5. The recipe is in there, and there's another place on the channel that the recipe is as well. But I've made this one a lot, and it's very, very simple, very easy. At any rate, I made the recipe twice recently for funerals, and I realized that a 5-pound bag of flour is supposed to have 18 3/4 cups flour in it. And I don't know if I didn't measure it exactly right. I wasn't real careful. You're supposed to actually pour the flour into the measuring cup and then level it off with a knife. And I was scooping it instead of, but I was scooping it gently, so it wasn't getting packed down in there. But it seemed like it should have been, my measurement should have been correct because the bread came out right. It was the right proportion of liquid to flour. Came out very nice both times. At any rate, what I discovered was that one bag of flour only made 2.5 recipes of flour, so that would make 5 French loaves. So 5 pounds of bread made 5 French loaves of bread, which meant that I had a pound of flour, give or take a little, but it should have been about a pound of flour in each loaf of French bread. That set my mind to thinking that if you had a pound of food per day per person for a year, that would be 365 pounds of food, which is pretty close to 400. So that would mean you'd have, obviously you're going to have other kinds of foods, but if it was all in white flour, you'd have 1 loaf of French bread per person per day. And then if you multiply the calories, 400 calories worth of flour, and there's should be 3 cups of flour in 1 loaf of bread, then 1 loaf of French bread should be 1,200 calories plus a little bit more for the sugar you put in it, but not a whole lot more. So about 1,200 calories in a whole loaf of French bread. If you've ever made this bread and it comes out of the oven smelling pretty good, you can easily eat 1/3 or 1/2 of a loaf, just one person. Slather a little butter on there, adds a few calories. But so I'm trying to picture, number one, the calories are not sufficient. 1,200 calories in flour plus a little for the sugar, and that would be, if you had 365 pounds of white flour for one person for 1 year, that would be 1,200 calories a day, and that's not enough. You need somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 calories a day, and possibly more if you have someone who's carrying a child or someone who's nursing a child, or if you have children, they may need more than 2,000. If you have teenagers, that may need more than 2,000. And I'm no expert on calories. I just that's a ballpark figure. It's a lot more than 1,200 is what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry, I look a little rough this morning. I think it's the weather. So that was a real wake-up call for me. Another thing was, I'm trying to think how this went. I made peanut butter cookies first, a big batch of peanut butter cookies, and I took some jars of peanut butter that actually were expired, and they had about, there was 6 jars in my cupboard that had about that much peanut butter in them, and then on the side. So I took a spoon that was the right shape and scraped all these jars out to make a batch of peanut butter cookies. And that's another thing. Peanut butter has 100 calories. I don't have it right in front of me. It's about 100 calories in a tablespoon of peanut butter. It might be 80, 90. I'll look at it in a while. If it's very far different than that, I'll put a note beneath this if I'm mistaken. But I'm thinking it's 80, 90, 100 calories per tablespoon of peanut butter. And there was quite a lot of peanut butter in this batch of cookies. And we could just fly through peanut butter cookies. I put a Ziploc container of it in the freezer. I should run and go get it. Maybe I'll bring it out later for another video. And it was about, I don't know, maybe that deep at the bottom of the container, and it's about the size of a shoebox. And I probably had more than a pound of peanut butter in it. I use a lot of peanut butter in my cookies, but just was thinking quantity-wise that the 300 to 400 pounds of grain, calorie-wise, by my current calculations. I'm no mathematician, but I just run these numbers without even thinking about it because I'm left brain dominant. It's just the way I am. So if by my calculation, 365 pounds of flour a year is going to get you about 1,200 calories worth of calories from the flour alone. There's no oil in this bread. There's just a little bit of sugar in it. The sugar doesn't amount to that much, maybe 125, 150 calories worth of sugar in the whole loaf, the whole batch, maybe the whole batch. I think sugar is about 800 calories a cup. It's about 500 calories a batch, so about 250 calories worth of sugar. So your loaf of bread is going to now be bumped up to maybe 1,400 calories for the whole loaf. So it's something to think about when if you're calculating how much time you want to cover for. I just have assumed all this time that 400 pounds of grain or 300 pounds of grain and another 100 pounds of milk or beans or what have you. I'm going to try not to say what have you. I say that too much. I had assumed that that was going to be proper calorie coverage until I started itching my nose running the numbers. So that's my little synopsis of my calorie shock, my quantity shock this weekend. And I have some related topics coming up if you can hear my voice today. God bless. Bye.